Perhaps you or a family relative, maybe a husband, maybe a wife, filed an application for permanent residency. You are expecting to receive a notice in the mail telling you the date of your interview, but you received a request for evidence, known as an RFE. You likely feel confused, perhaps overwhelmed, frustrated. However, a request for evidence is not the end of the road. In fact, it's an opportunity for you to strengthen your case and bring it a step closer to winning a green card. Maybe you feel like you don't have any more information to provide to the government. In my practice, I've talked to numerous individuals, numerous immigrants who have shared that sentiment. In almost all instances, they were wrong. You simply need more guidance. And that's the purpose of this video, to provide you with insights and the confidence to help you put your best foot forward. So, let's dive in. A good way of looking at the request for evidence, in my view, is to see it as a three-step process. First things first, you must understand the request for evidence thoroughly. A, study the government's request in detail. You must know what they really want from you. Do not skim over this step. Do not minimize this step. B, study the evidence and the documents that they're seeking. At this stage, many immigrants fall short because they think, I have no more evidence that they're requesting. However, the evidence that is suggested in the request for evidence can be supplemented, can be added to, can be modified by other materials and documents in the immigrant's possession. This evidence is often more than adequate to meet the government's concerns. C, know the deadlines. Generally speaking, RFEs will specify a deadline that's 30 or 87 days from the date of the issuance of the letter. Know this deadline and don't wait until the last minute. Go through your documents and file it, if you can, well in advance of the due date. The second step in the responsive process involves gathering and organizing the documents and materials that will be submitted to the government in response to their request for evidence. Generally speaking, the government's request falls into three general categories. The first is that of insufficient information. The immigrant and the spouse may not have provided enough financial information. For instance, the sponsor of the immigrant, the petitioner, has to have met a certain income requirement in order for the immigrant to be able to be granted a green card. And maybe enough income information hasn't been provided. Maybe there isn't enough tax returns showing. Or maybe there's a shortage of income, and in which case a co-sponsor is necessary and the co-sponsor hasn't submitted enough information. Maybe there's a gap in the immigrant's residency history, and that the government wants to review because it's very important to show that they meet certain requirements, especially being able to interview in the United States. A second thing is that the information may not be sufficient to prove certain points. For instance, the immigrant that entered with a visa and they've never left would be able to, in most situations, to seek a green card in the United States, assuming there's no other problems. But they haven't submitted enough proof of that lawful entry or the fact that their residency has been continuous since then. The same question could be asked, say, of fiance visa entrants. They came in on a fiance visa. Did they get married within 90 days? They haven't shown proof that they met that 90-day standard, or even perhaps that they haven't provided the proper visa for the government to review at the green card interview. Now, the other times there's just maybe some legal issues that come up. Perhaps the applicant, the petitioner, the United States petitioner or lawful permanent resident petitioner, or the immigrant was married before and residency applications were submitted prior to this marriage. That could present a legal issue that the government wants to resolve to make sure that that prior marriage, that prior application wasn't a sham, wasn't a fraud. Those are the general three categories, and there's a other issue could come in, perhaps prior convictions, perhaps prior marriages. A whole bunch of materials could be asked, but the most important thing is that if you studied in the first step of this three-step process what the government wants, you can identify better what they need. Along that line, it is very important as you're putting your evidence together to re-review your prior application, because the government sometimes just misses evidence or previously provided. My general advice in such a situation is to provide that information again, but also to call the government's attention that they simply overlooked that information the first time. Now we reach the third step in the process of responding to the RFE. You've worked hard. You studied the RFE that was sent to you. You studied what the government wanted. You took your time to organize the proper documents so that you could put forward a good response. So now it's time to submit that response. But before you submit that response, there are a few pointers I'd like to share. One, you need to double check for accuracy and thoroughness. I always tell people to double check because as human beings, we make mistakes, and the simple mistake can have grave consequences when it comes to immigration. Second, double check the USCIS mailing address before you mail it. If you mail it to the wrong address and you're waiting to the last minute, well, it may not arrive on time. Then you got bigger problems than you really want. Third, always include the RFE notice so that they know exactly what you're responding to. And with that, you should have a cover letter, and the cover letter should mention that you've included the RFE notice. Include translations, proper translations, and also include certifications, especially of important government or court documents like prior divorces or prior deaths. Prepare an index of documents. That's item number 5 in my general list of pointers, because you want to guide the government reviewer into what information you're providing. And the easier you make it on the officer to understand your case, the better off you will be. Sixth, if you're going to mail this, mail it always by certified mail and get a receipt so that you can track the mailing if there's any problems. And 7, before you mail it, before you wrap it up in an envelope, package it, make sure you make an exact copy of each and every page because you want a copy for yourself. Again, if something happens to go wrong. And 8, which I briefly mentioned a second ago, mail early. Do not wait till the last minute because if you have one of these glitches, it's going to cause you huge problems. Try to work on this from the beginning as early as possible, and then you can submit it as early as possible. And if there's any glitches that occur by accident, you can clean it up. You still have time to clean it up. And my last pointer is this. Look, if you have a serious legal issue, or you really don't know what you should be providing or how to address the issue, and you're trying to do this alone or just with a family member, consult with an attorney in your local area. Make sure that you're doing this right, because the entire success of your application is riding on your ability to provide the government with a good response to their request for evidence. With that, I'm going to sign off, and I want to wish you the best of luck going forward. And I do hope that you win your green card, become a permanent resident, and someday later, become a U.S. citizen. Bye. Thanks for watching. Know someone who might be interested in this video? Then please take a moment to like and share it with them. Also, if you would like more videos on immigration, just click on the subscribe button. And here's a little bonus, a short guide that you can download for free by clicking on the link on the description box or the square-shaped image. Plus, if you have ideas for videos you'd like to see, write a short comment below, or feel free to contact me at carlos@VitaraImmigrationLaw.com. My name is Carlos Vitara. I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll be talking again very, very soon.